All right, welcome back, everybody. Been a while. Had a bit of trouble with recording, so I decided to move back to recording on my phone. It's week 4 of the GSC Invitational, and we got Elodin and Aminita. Both really strong players. Aminita is featured on this channel a couple of times before, even in the previous Invitational. And Elodin was the top player in SPL this year in terms of GSC. Highest rising star, without a doubt, both on the winner's side. And you guys know that aside from subscribing, if you want to catch more of these GSC games, you can do that. But you can also join the Discord in the description below to share your hot takes on GSC or catch games live, as well as make a donation to support the legacy. All right, so let's get into this. Now, parentheses, Aminita is really well known for his offensive teams. Very aggressive offense. So expect to see something like that. I don't know Elodin well enough to say what to expect from him, but he is going to switch to his Snorlax. And he's going to curse. I think cursing early is always a pretty good move to do. Aminita is going to go to his Fortress and use Toxic, while the Snorlax sets up 2 curses. And then Fortress is going to get the spikes. Now, normally, Fortress does a couple of things well. It checks, soft checks, Curse EQ Snorlax pretty well, in the sense that it can put the Snorlax on a timer, and it takes neutral damage and has pretty decent bulk to withstand the earthquakes, still get some spikes up, and then evade pretty easily. Now, normally what you want to do is scout for Fire Blast, but seeing as, I don't know, it's not all that common, Aminita doesn't do that. So Snorlax gets some nice damage for being a resisted move, and the Fortress is already pretty low. So the fact that we didn't see a fire move should already be an indication of something. The Fortress does not explode, so this could be a stall team, or maybe Aminita's plotting something. And we do see that this Snorlax is Rest Talk, so it gets a nice 33 on Tyranitar switching in. It could get another 33. No, it looks like that's not going to happen. Tyranitar goes after because he clicked Roar. Negative priority. Still, Elodin got some pretty good damage the first 8 turns here. And his Zapdos, which he called Karapinga, takes a whopping 79% from that Raikou and gets paralyzed. Raikou, on the other hand, is doing A-okay. So with all that damage done initially, it's like Aminita manages to reverse it. And in comes Marowak immediately. So what we see here is Elodin has an offensive team, and he doesn't seem to have many good switch-ins. If he's going to Cloyster, it's because he doesn't have a ground resist. Zapdos is at 29% and could get one shot. But more importantly, it's paralyzed. So even if Elodin successfully predicts a switch-in, it's going to take damage the next turn and die because Marowak is faster. So he wants to keep it for later and see if he can heal it back up. The Cloyster is still going to take some insane damage from Thick Club Marowak. Cloyster's really bulky and manages to take 2 earthquakes, and it does the same damage, earthquake and rock slide, from the Marowak because it's not stab. And he's not going to explode. Raikou comes in, and forcing out the Cloyster, he's going to immediately go to his Fortress. He's going to try and spin again, probably. And yeah, that is what he does. But Elodin takes advantage of this. He goes to his Zapdos. He knows that Aminita wants to spin And he doubles back, which is interesting. Probably what he did here was he went to Cloister because the Fortress was indicating an explosion. Unlike Cloister, which can't have explosion and rapid spin, Fortress can. In Gen 2, Cloister can't learn both those moves. So he stays in, possibly hoping to explode. He doesn't, well, we don't know if he goes for spikes. He could also have just gone for spikes. But yeah, probably it was too low to come back. Snorlax forces in the T-Tar again, but this is pretty rough. This is a pretty rough start for Elodin. Needless to say, Machamp gets roared in. So that's pretty good for this team. We see a Machamp with the spikes, and Machamp is one of those offensive teams, well, because it constitutes a type of sweeper that doesn't need spikes to win. So depending on what Aminita has in the back, there's still a chance. And with a team like this, Aminita could be having something defensive. But it's hard to tell. Either way, he was doing an excellent job capitalizing. And of course, the last mon is going to be Snorlax, but the second to last is a Heracross. And Heracross is a really good counter to Machamp here. Not to mention the Zapdos is low. Steelix should come in nicely, but we see that Heracross has Seismic Toss. So the resistance to Bug isn't going to cut it, and Elodin just booms immediately, and Aminita goes to Snorlax, but without the spikes, the Snorlax will be able to switch out. So that explosion was all for naught. It was a low roll, didn't kill the Lax. Heracross comes in, and is it going to click Mega Horn? No, it's not. We see Elodin's last finally revealed, and it's an Alakazam. Interesting. So it's a toxic Alakazam. It might have Encore that usually pairs with it. And Elodin goes for a Psychic. So instead of clicking Rock Slide or something, Aminita's going to click Roar, which is interesting. It says a lot. Alakazam would typically lose to Tyranitar, especially if the Tyranitar is Crunch. But in the scenario that it isn't Crunch, Toxic Encore Alakazam can sort of Toxic stall the T-Tar and potentially win the 1v1. So what does Aminita do? He clicks Roar because he knows that whatever Elodin does, Aminita will be able to respond. Be it the Snorlax. I think the biggest risk is the Snorlax. But if Zapdos comes in, it's paralyzed. If Machamp comes in, he'll just go back to Heracross and rinse and repeat. So far, so good for Aminita. And Elodin is going to double to his Alakazam, expecting the switch. And instead of clicking Psychic here, he goes for Recover. I'm not sure about this play. Psychic seems like it would do good damage, but at the same time, if T-Tar comes in, then maybe he would prefer that recovery. Psychic, I feel like, is better, but also it wouldn't necessarily kill the Heracross. And Elodin's team is really slow, so Heracross could just heal all that HP back. So we're going to see the Mega Horn, and that's going to KO. So it's funny because I think in GSC 1v1, Alakazam has Barrier, but I can't remember the damage calculation. I think Heracross is able to actually 2-hit KO pretty reliably. So Barrier, this Zam definitely doesn't have Barrier, but whatever. It was just a useless fact. Lax is going to come in, and we still don't even know what set it is. Oh no, what the fuck am I saying? We do. We absolutely do know what set it is. It's a Mono Lax. And that's interesting. So the Mono Lax isn't something you'd normally see without any support. But as we did say earlier, Machamp is really good at wall breaking. It doesn't need win cons. It's something that you really desperately need to respect. So this feels like one of those teams that relies on overloading offense or overloading the opponent's defense with just extremely powerful Pokemon. Not necessarily with the correct support, but just by causing one wall to be spread thin, trying to check a lot of different things. Curse Snorlax versus a Poison T-Tar. In the long run, the Curse Snorlax should win. So, the T-Tar isn't going to be able to phase forever, especially if the Machamp is going to force it out. So, Heracross coming back in, though. And I guess we did see that the Zapdos rested, so apologies if I missed the turn in which we saw the rest. I must have, lost focus there. Okay, so the Raikou with Thunder is able to reliably 3-hit KO Zapdos. Furthermore, right now with Steelix gone, Elodin doesn't have either a normal resist or an electric one. So every time Snorlax or Zapdos come in, Raikou or Snorlax, then Elodin will be taking damage, even if it's a little bit. This Tyranitar is proving to be so reliable despite the poison, which is interesting to say the least. And the Heracross could probably just go for a Seismic Toss here. Just to get some regular unresisted damage on that Zapdos. Putting it slightly in a worse position versus Raikou. I can't quite say that it's changed the odds much, but damage is damage. And there's a neat double here. Aminita is going to try and blow the team open. So the Snorlax is going to set up with one curse. That's nice, but even if the Snorlax responds with the double edge, unless it crits, it's not going to take out the Marowak. So this might just be it. +2. Okay, so it doesn't survive. And Elodin forfeits because, War of Attrition, Last Mon Lax could probably pull something off, but in this particular case, no. So make of that what you will. Aminita making a very strong statement, winning with all 6 of his Pokemon in the first game. We'll see if... sorry about that. We'll see if Elodin can turn that around. And we got a Lax lead again. And Fori comes in. This time, Aminita leads with Zapdos. Zapdos plus Fori on offense. Or maybe not. Maybe it's not offense. Ooh, and the immediate Flamethrower. Now, Flamethrower sometimes kills after a double edge. In this case, it didn't, but it got the burn. So the Fortress is pretty much out of commission. And Elodin is going to deal some damage to this Gengar. Okay, and it's a crit too. So a burn followed by a crit. Gengar is pretty threatening, but it rarely ever one-hit KOs with Explosion. I don't even think it can one-hit KO, to be honest. That said, even if it doesn't, the speed of Snorlax is so slow that it risks dying, especially with spikes established. Elodin isn't too concerned with this though. It's kind of hard to explain, but you typically don't want to explode immediately unless you have a really good reason to. And unless you have a team, if your team is designed to do a lot of things, maybe have an average good, a good matchup against the average team and just against a lot of teams, then maybe you don't want to boom immediately. Because you're trying to do middle ground plays, optimal plays, things like that. You're not trying to end the game quickly. I'll just leave it at that. So with this in mind, Elodin knows this. He stays in, and the Snorlax can win out against the Gengar. So he's gonna assume that the opponent wouldn't want to just lose his Gar. So he's not threatened, and he clicks Flamethrower again. And on turn 4, he gets another burn. Burn followed by crit followed by burn. Mind you, it's not Fire Blast where the odds of getting a burn is 30. The odds of or 20. The odds of getting a burn with Flamethrower should be somewhere around 10, if I am not mistaken. Snorlax from Aminita. Aminita clicks Lovely Kiss immediately as soon as he brings in the Lax, and that's a meta trend. A lot of Snorlax nowadays run Lovely Kiss, and it depends on the type of offense, right? So we definitely have an offense on Aminita's team. Not one that's going to target Snorlax with booms, clearly, but maybe something else. We don't know. But the Snorlax getting this Lovely Kiss off on Cloyster probably suggests that they want the Cloyster to be put to sleep, because a normal resist wouldn't come in unless you click Curse. I mean, it could come in, but it wouldn't necessarily come in. But what would almost certainly come in the early game versus Snorlax is Cloyster. So clicking Lovely Kiss immediately and not waiting for the damage is a benefit. It's because of the spikes, but probably also because you want the Cloyster just gone. So in comes Raikou. And, it's a toss-up still, despite the hacks and stuff. It's a toss-up. So expect something that wants the Cloyster out of the way to be in Aminita's last slot. Raikou gets put to sleep, and just when the Raikou uses Rest, Aminita brings in Steelix, because he knows that the Raikou is easier to manipulate if it has 2 turns of rest to burn. So he's going to immediately bring something that can 2-hit KO it, that can threaten it, okay, and really hurt it. So, yeah. And he clicks Roar, gets a little bit of damage. Golem comes in. And in comes Vaporeon. So if Vaporeon comes in that soon, it's almost certainly not going to be Acid Armor. Acid Armor is used in the late game typically to check certain things, but this Vaporeon is setting up. With +2 special attack, it already 3-hit KOs the Snorlax pretty safely. But I suppose... Yeah, no, that's it. So if if Aminita is allowing the Vaporeon to take so much damage, then it's not Acid Armor. And we see the rest, and he actually stays in. Interestingly enough, he stays in on the Raikou. The Raikou is a good check to Vaporeon, but why doesn't Snorlax stay in? Because it could lose, and if he loses the Snorlax, he might never make progress in this matchup. So he goes to his Raikou. The problem with this is that Raikou could potentially fumble here, and that would send Elodin to losers. The Raikou needs to use Sleep Talk to even call upon Thunder, which has 70% accuracy. And to call upon the move Thunder, you have a 33% chance. Multiplied together, that's around 21%. So 21% chance of this Raikou landing 1 Thunder, which is not enough to KO the Vaporeon. But it could be enough to nullify the threat, depending on what Elodin has in the back. He didn't get the Thunder the first time, but he gets it as he wakes up and he crits. He 1-hit KOs, and oh shit. Aminita just forfeits. Okay. On turn 18, I relate very well to this type of salt. I had a match yesterday and forfeited on game 3 of turn 20 or something, 22. So I relate to that. It happens. You just lose your biggest win con. You got crit burned, and then some other bullshit happens. So that's GSC giveth, but GSC also taketh away. We have both players on the board. If you're enjoying this is a nail biter of a set. Honestly, this is pretty awesome. We're gonna go to game 3, so the winner moves on to the next round, and I believe that the winner's side players have fewer sets to play. And yeah. So, anyways, Eggy lead this time. Aminita leads with Executor, and we see another stall this time. This time we actually see a Skarmory, and it's going to miss the Toxic. Now, Eggy doesn't typically want to stay in on Skarmory, depending on what you want to do. I think Eggy likes to sneak attack the Skarmory, like guerrilla tactics. Skarmory kind of has to respect the threat of a boom, so being the best option for coming in on most booms, you're often going to see it come in on Executor. It's also a flying type, so Drill Peck can hurt it. Toxic can put the Eggy on a timer, so there's lots of reasons why you want to come in. But then sometimes you might have Whirlwind and not Sleep Talk, so you could be put to sleep. You can get chipped, you can get para'd, and then later there could be a Marowak or a Machamp in the back. You could get hit by HP Fire, which does about half because, it hits like a truck. So, Raikou going to come in and, Raikou on Raikou action. Do you guys think Raikou is a dog? I honestly feel like it's more of a tiger, but, that's me. It just feels like a tiger, especially those powerful legs. I don't know. Feels like a tiger with a mane, which is honestly badass. Anyway, so Elodin gets para'd. This could be big. There is a full para as Snorlax comes in, so Elodin's going to switch out, as any player would. Are we going to see another Lovely Kiss Lax? That would be interesting. So there is a Toxic, so that's going to put... So now both Raikous are statused with different colors. Mind you, both are Raikou's prime colors. Okay, so there's a sleep. So it is a Lovely Kiss Lax, meaning Aminita is not straying away from offense here. Now, if that is the case, we should believe that this is something of a Heracross team again, possibly. I mean, history would have it that, I think Lavos built this, or Idiot from Mars or something, or Veteran in Love. One of those old heads of GSC built a Raikou Eggy Hera team with Golem. Of course, the meta has evolved, so there's no telling what could be in the back. So we see a Rhydon. I mean, that's certainly offensive. So it's not a Hera, but it's offensive. Yeah, Cloy comes in here. And, ooh, interesting. Okay, Rhydon stays in. Aminita really making the most out of his turns. Staying in on a Spiker. That takes some balls, man. I wouldn't do that. But he does. And, I would just forfeit the spikes. It's a 50-50. He makes the most out of that. And now he has a Starmie in, so the Starmie could kill the Cloyster. That could be nice. And that could be beneficial for the Rhydon. So, yep. All right. And we see the Snorlax coming in. And okay, so this team is clearly trying to spread paralysis. And, okay, it's a Thunderlax. Thunderlax on stall. Could be Curse Thunder. But it also, so they both exchange paras, but this is huge. The para on the Starmie is huge. Para on Lax isn't something to scoff at. I mean, it's the slowest mon in the game, so it doesn't care too much about being slower, but it kind of does. I don't think that Aminita's team is boom offense, so that's not why it matters. It matters more for the fact that the best mon in the game isn't going to be attacking 1 out of 4 turns. But the Starmie spins, and it dies to the double edge. Rhydon comes in, okay. Then the Rhydon, was called upon after the Starmie died, and then the Rhydon switches to Charizard. We'll see if the Snorlax switches out here. And yeah, but instead of expecting a Skarmory turn, because Elodin could have easily gone to Skarm here, it just so happens that he's packing the best counter to Charizard and to Rhydon, which is Suicune. And Suicune doesn't give a rat's ass about Belly Drum Charizard. I mean, it kind of does, but you need to paralyze it first or chip it. But from full, nah. So it clicks Toxic, and this is just to bring out one thing I want to mention here. This team, if you've noticed, it doesn't have a single poison resist or poison immunity. So the Toxic plays really well into this particular matchup, as many Rhydon teams are susceptible to that. So, oh god, are you kidding me? Damn, this is a blast from the past. Holy crap. Zap Cannon Rhydon. Damn. Oh my god, I haven't read about Zap Cannon Rhydon since that post from M-Dragon in, I don't even remember what year it was. Damn. Talk about a blast from the past. Jesus. Oh, and he gets the full para, but unfortunately, Aminita didn't stay in. So there might still be a chance that we see yet another Charizard sweep. We can't say it's over just yet. It's anybody's game here, though. It's anybody's game. And as time progresses, it looks like the odds might just be in Elodin's favor, because his team overall is quite healthy, despite the status. And, Rhydon loves to come in on Thunder Snorlax, so, Elodin's going to take advantage of the obvious damage turn to click Rest and heal his Lax. Probably a good play. He goes to Skarm. He does not go to Suicune this time because he wants to make sure it's healthy. But Aminita doesn't go to Zard this time. I wonder why. Okay, so it's a Sleep Talk Curse Skarm. Designed to check the likes of Lastmon Curse Lax and even Drumlax. But and even some forms of physical offense. So this Rhydon is never getting past that. Forget the Suicune. But he's trying to paraflinch the Suicune. He does get one. He might need another. Oh, but he misses. Okay, that sucks. It's going to be a long time before he gets that Suicune parrot again. So, fuck. Okay. Well, so far, this is pretty entertaining. This is pretty interesting. A spikeless Zard team. I think Earthworm built that. So we're seeing a lot of, a mix of new and old teams. I'm pretty sure if you guys are interested in the moveset, you can go into the samples in Runes of Elf, and you'll find this exact team. So, maybe not with Lovely Kiss Lax, but probably with it, actually. So, Suicune coming in, not giving two fucks about the matchup. And Elodin, Elodin is one of the best players right now. And we've had many years where people have been talking very poorly about Suicune, about how it's outclassed by every water type. And that might be true, but that's not because they're able to do what it does better. It's just that the niche of Suicune is a hard one to fill. But when it works, it works. It can take a lot of damage. It's one of the few Pokemon that can take a +6 double edge from Lax and Roar, I think. Cloyster booms. So another Mon goes down. And Cloyster Explosion on stall is not something you see every day. So this is pretty interesting as time goes on. This is getting more interesting. Amanita's win con, or one of his win cons, is down. Now he really has to be careful with the Rhydon. He can't just stay in, because if it gets toxic, it's over. If it gets surfed, it's over. Amanita just doesn't win. So maybe he needs to make something happen with the Eggy. Okay. Rhydon. Okay. So, well, Rhydon loves coming in on Snorlax. So he does have some leverage here, even without the spikes, even without the spin, and even without the Zard. But yeah, so far we're seeing some double switches. If he can get a nice crit or two, then he should be able to beat the Coon, and then whatever might be in the back, I'm not sure what that could be. Could be a Golem. But yeah, so you would say, oh, what a terrible play, he stayed in. But mind you, when you're this far behind, you got to make predictions. And, like, he would lose anyways, right? So you can criticize all you want, but Amanita is trying to fight for his life here. And it's just getting worse. Elodin, consistent as ever, he has a Golem. Does this one also have Explosion, or does it have Rest? Who knows? Who knows? He goes for Earthquake. Eggy coming in. See, this is another interesting thing. Then I'll stop yapping. But the Golem never coming in might also be... Well, there's no spikes. But sure, we saw Lax come in. But since he knows that Eggy checks Golem, he doesn't bring it in. Because he knows that Eggy is a threat. So he doesn't want the Eggy to come in for free. That's something sometimes lower level players don't really consider, is entry points. You bring in a Mon, sure, your Pokemon is good, but if it brings in a more threatening Mon from the opponent, is it a good play? Maybe you could do a safer play that's not as immediately threatening. Okay, so Skarmory comes in. And he's just going to spread Toxic, because that's all this Skarmory does. Boom. Okay. Still trying to make plays, which is admirable, to say the least. Aminita might Lovely Kiss here. No, goes for damage. Okay. He doesn't want the Eggy to be toxic, but he wants to find an opportunity to bring the Eggy in. Raikou can come in. It's not super threatened. If I'm Elodin, I go to Lax. He goes to... Or sure, okay. Raikou, why not? Hopefully I don't doze off like I did in the middle of a recording session 3 weeks ago. So, Raikou coming in, but, it's fairly safe. There's no Drill Peck crit happening here. So, we saw all of Skarmory's moves. It doesn't have Drill Peck. Talk about really desperately needing a Gengar. Damn. Okay, so Raikou putting up, a fight, taking all these hits. But even if Aminita managed to spin away the spikes, it still doesn't really help his case. He is trying to stand his ground. But Elodin can kind of PP stall him. He does go to Snorlax on a predicted rest turn. But that also lets Aminita go to his. Interestingly, he doesn't go to Eggy. We'll skip a couple of turns. Okay. No Whirlwind, no Drill Peck, but we do see some turns of Lax. We don't really know if it's Curse or if it's Sleep Talk. If it's Sleep Talk, it can fight back while asleep, but why does Elodin need to risk something? Because if he loses the Lax, then it's 4 versus 3, and then maybe Eggy can make a play. Instead, just comfortably sit at 5 versus 3. Which, in this case, makes sense. So, the Golem does get put to sleep, which makes me think it doesn't care because it's probably not Boom. If it were Boom, it would have exploded by now. And it must be a Rest Golem. Elodin does go to Skarmory in case that's a Lovely Kiss Earthquake Snorlax. Which it doesn't seem to be, but I don't know. Elodin playing very cautiously. We're going to see if this is a Sleep Talk turn. It's not. Makes me think that it's Curse. Skarmory coming in, turn 99. Rest, okay. See, Aminita is dictating the pace, but it's not really playing in his favor. He would need so many crits right now. Still, he wants to hang in there because if he cares about this tournament, then he wants to hang in there. Because being on the loser's side is just that much worse. So he does finally go to Eggy on turn 104. We're going to see what happens. He deals some damage. No Leech Seed. And it's not Sleep Talk, so Lax wakes up here. Goes for Double Edge, of course. We didn't see a Giga Drain either. So, probably not. Yeah, probably just a Boom. But he's not going to explode because he knows Skarm. So this is one of those turns where things can get scary. This might just be Hidden Power Fire. It's not, I guess. Maybe it's Sleep Powder. Maybe it's Double Sleep. We don't really know. Could be Stun Spore. Stun Giga. Hard to tell. But the Toxic misses, so that's good for Aminita. He wants to keep leveraging. Without spikes, it's really hard because the team relies on speed control, not so much on spikes control. But without either of those, it's just impossible to make progress. He really needs to make an insane play. And he's not getting the Spadef drops. The fact that he's staying in and not clicking Hidden Power Fire here should already give us everything we need to know. So, this is looking pretty bad. Looking pretty rough. And Raikou. Damn. Okay. Man, there's the Giga Drain. So I just love the GSC sprite. But I hate the Pokemon Yellow sprite. I just hate how it looks in yellow. It's so green. Like, I wish it weren't so green. It just looks weird. Maybe it's just the appearance it has on Showdown, but I'm sure that through the lens of liquid crystals, it might look better, the pixel art. But I just like the color scheme change. And Lax, well, which one? Elodin's Lax wins the speed tie, so we'll never know if that was a boom. If it were a boom, he might have had a chance. He might have had a chance. But it's probably going to die. Yeah. It's so close to dying. Oh, and he stays in. Okay, that's a very... Even at this level, we see nice plays. I mean, then again, it's not like he's going to 1v4 with a Raikou. So, Elodin secures the win yet again. He defeated Coco in round 1. He defeats Aminita. And we're going to see further on. Hope you guys enjoyed.